have another call. We will do the roll call again, since we've already done the pledge.
Mrs. Banis Clemens?
Here.
Mr. Casper?
Here.
Mrs. Cullen?
Here.
Mr. Kraus?
Here.
Mrs. Miller?
Here.
Mr. Agelmo?
Here.
Mrs. Schmidt?
Here.
Mrs. Yardley?
Here.
Dr. Yarnell?
Here. I am reminded that I did not officially adjourn the previous meeting, so we are adjourned for the reorganization meeting, and we will now move to this meeting. Obviously, we've had the roll call, and the next item is student recognition. Dr. Radigan, I understand you are going to do this.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Yarnell. Tonight, everyone, we recognize the efforts of two of our seniors, Emma Kramer and Krista Tyson. As members of the Key Club, Emma and Krista spent 11 days this summer in a mountain village in the Dominican Republic on a team that constructed a 2-mile-long aqueduct to bring water to about 1,300 people living there. They also helped install a water filtration system. As we continue to incorporate social and emotional learning into our curriculum, Emma and Krista are shining examples of some of the positive behaviors we promote each month. Kindness, empathy, and service as examples. I'm sure there was also a little bit of perseverance there as they worked in the hot and humid weather. The experience was so powerful for them that Emma hopes to work for Rustic Pathways, the organization that organized the project after she graduates from college. Krista also plans to make community service a big part of her post-high school life. So ladies, on behalf of the board, the administration, the staff, and the entire community, thank you for making us Pennridge proud. Please come up and be recognized.
Thank you. Thank you. And congratulations, ladies. I worked in the water treatment field for a long time. I know how difficult it is to put it into a country that doesn't have a lot of money. So I really commend you for your efforts and the help to the local people. At this point, we'll move to questions and comments from guests. I have only one name on the form that was provided on the table outside. I will take that person, and if there's anyone else who came late who wants to speak, I'll ask for them. Please give us your name and a municipality of residence, and limit your speaking time to 3 minutes. Mrs. Rebeck. If you would come to the podium, and there is a funny face there to push, which will give you the microphone. Yeah, you'll be on sound.
Thank you. My name is Joanne Revac, and I'm here to discuss some busing issues for the direct-to-destination routes and the elimination of transfers for the non-public students who attend St. Jude School. Several parents from St. Jude School have been in touch with Brian Geiger and other members of the Transportation Department since August, as well as with Dr. Radigan since September, to try to resolve these issues, but our concerns haven't been resolved to our satisfaction. So I'm here tonight requesting that changes be made to make the busing for our children safer, timely, and more efficient. Ultimately, our hope is that Pennridge buses can begin taking the St. Jude students direct to their destination and eliminate waiting time and transfers. The majority of the St. Jude children live less than 7 miles from the school, which is about a 12-minute car ride. However, most are on the bus for 2 hours or longer a day. Most of them must also transfer buses, which poses a safety risk for our children. We're proposing that the St. Jude children be bused directly to and from school, and given the short travel distance for our students, coupled with the closing of SASH, we believe that there are now enough St. Jude children to fill the 2 Pennridge buses, and that our children can now be taken directly to and from school. To help better understand the situation, there are two Pennridge buses assigned to St. Jude. In the afternoon, one bus leaves St. Jude, then goes in the opposite direction to Montgomery County to wait and pick up for children at MMR, and then it heads back up to SASH, passing St. Jude, to wait for children from Mater Dei to board before leaving for drop-offs. At this point, our children are already on the bus for at least 45 minutes, and that's 45 minutes to go 4.9 miles. Some of these students don't get home until 4:30 or 4:45. The other bus that leaves St. Jude does drop off a handful of children directly from school, and these children are home in about 30 minutes or less. However, we feel that if there is direct to destination for some, then it should be done for all. And it's just outrageous to us that a handful of our students are home in 30 minutes or less, but the majority get home in about an hour or more, and they all live the same distance from the school. Aside from the time spent on the bus, there are also numerous safety concerns. At the transfer station, especially in the afternoon, there are at times 6 buses in the lot waiting for and dropping off children. It is chaotic and puts our children at risk for an accident. We have emailed and asked Mr. Geiger to visit the transfer station in the afternoon to see the mess. However, to my knowledge, he's not visited, and we've also offered to meet with him and show him pictures of the transfer, but we've not heard from him since early November. So we are asking again to have the direct to destination for the St. Jude children. We believe it can be done by one of several solutions, by providing a smaller bus or a van for the other school students, having one of the Gwinnett buses pick up those students, or even outsourcing their transportation. And as we've been told by the transportation department, it is our choice to send our children to private school, and it definitely is. However, we still pay the same amount in taxes, if not more, with most of us averaging about $10,000 a year for taxes, and we use no other school services. So we feel that that, combined with the state stipend to transport non-public students, should provide sufficient funding to facilitate the proposed changes. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any comment, Dr. Rattle? This request?
Not to this specific one. Obviously, we've had a lot of situations where at the last meeting or two, some of the parents came and spoke, and I know that Mr. Geiger and his staff have worked diligently and tried to resolve it, but as you said, not to your satisfaction.
Right.
So I certainly will speak with Mr. Geiger and Mr. Daubert and be in touch.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask a clarifying question? I think you said they're on the bus for 2 hours. Did you mean total in the day?
Total for the day, at least 2 hours for the day.
So an hour there and an hour back is what you're saying?
At least, yes. Some of them are averaging an hour and a half on the way home. So it's just frustrating. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else who wishes to make a comment before we start the meeting business? If not, we'll move to the consent calendar. Are there any items on the consent calendar that board members would like voted on separately? Seeing and hearing none, do we have a motion to approve the items on the consent calendar? Those are A through J, including minutes of the 2 meetings, the regular and special meeting, bills lists, the regular one, plus capital projects, self-insurance, food service, student activities, the financial report, budget transfers, and of course the personnel report and EDR report. So do we have a motion to approve that list? Thank you, Mr. Krause. A second? Thank you, Mrs. Schmidt. Moved and seconded to approve the consent calendar as listed. Comments or questions from board members? If not, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 9-0. Next, we would have the student liaison report. I do not believe we have our student liaison with us tonight, so we will move on to the following item, which is the president's report. I would simply say, first of all, in terms of the right to know requests, we have 3 new requests during the period from October 22nd until December 2nd. Safety committee update before I speak beyond that. Mrs. Burkholder.
Yes, in November, we had an online e-learning training that was provided to all certified and non-certified staff. We had 95% of our district staff complete that training. The 5% that didn't are currently on leave, whether that's sabbatical or medical leave. In addition to that, we had our district-wide on-site training on November 8th for all certified and non-certified support staff, as well as our teachers. And that was completed on November 8th, both at the AM and PM sessions at the high school.
Thank you very much. In terms of what I'd like to speak to tonight, I'd like to at least give kind of a brief review, an overview of what happened and what we've accomplished in the last year. Obviously, last December, when we had our reorganization meeting, we welcomed 3 new board members. And I know that it's never easy for board members to start cold as they do on that first December night, and not the temperature, the fact that it's a little different sitting on this side of the microphone than the stage. So I certainly thank those board members for working hard and joining the board as a whole. The next matter of business was the wonderful budget, and 2 factors complicated that process. Well, probably more than 2, but at least 2 major factors complicated that process this year. First of all, we were still living without a state budget. Obviously, no fun for anyone. This district fared better than most. We didn't have to take out an anticipation bond and pay extra interest and put ourselves in even greater financial difficulty. So that was a good thing, and of course that crisis lasted until April. The other thing that happens every year when we have presidential primaries and the primary date is moved forward from the 3rd Tuesday in May to the last Tuesday in April, means that our budget calendar is pushed forward or pulled forward, whatever you want to call it. Everyone has to work in a somewhat compressed time frame. So obviously that made it a little more complicated. And as I think almost everyone knows at this point, budgets are never fun. The last few years have been much less than fun because partly the state can never get us their version of the budget until after we must pass ours on June 30th, on or before June 30th. And partly because in this particular case, there was no budget, even for the preceding or current year at that point. And also partly because the state has obviously had difficulty funding public education in a consistent way. So I want to thank the administration, in particular Mr. Daubert, for putting together a budget that board members on the whole were comfortable with and explaining why they were recommending the things they recommended, and the board did pass the budget in a timely fashion, the final budget in June. And the best part, perhaps, as far as I'm concerned, is we moved toward completely eliminating the structural deficit that had accrued after the recession, and not just in this district, but this district had that problem along with others. So we're well on our way to solving that problem. In terms of that, one of the things that's forthcoming in the middle of December we'll be hearing about the audit report that summarizes the year, and so we'll know better what the situation is financially. But I believe we're in relatively good situation financially. Some of the other things that happened, of course, was that we were fortunate to have a light snow year, so we didn't have a lot of days off relative to the previous year, which was a very difficult one. And then some of the other things that have happened is Dr. Radigan has finished her 3rd full year as superintendent in the Pennridge School, effective the 1st of November. Doesn't sound like a very long time, but we're very lucky to have an experienced superintendent. I say that because of the 13 school districts in Bucks County. Dr. Radigan is the 2nd most senior, and I don't mean in age, I mean in terms of service. Only Dr. McConnell in the Palisades School District has served longer, and she's only had 5 years of tenure. So the superintendents, not so unlike the rest of the state, the superintendents here are relatively new to the job, and it makes it a little more complicated, to say the least, to lack that level of experience across the county. And we have a new director at the IU, a relatively new director at IU, so we've had less experience than we probably have in many previous years. But I certainly think we are fortunate to have Dr. Radigan, and I believe the board and she have worked well together, and I hope that continues. That doesn't mean that we don't have things that we'd like her to do. It just means that so far it's gone well. Some of the other things, school obviously has opened this fall, seemingly without too much difficulty. Obviously, as noted before by our speaker, there have been some busing issues, as there almost always are. And I say, Dr. Radigan and I have had this conversation. It is a difficult, I think, a very difficult situation for the Department of Transportation to solve all these problems in a way that is suitable for parents and students. And the way I look at this, very simplistic and very mathematical, you'll have to forgive me for that, I was a scientist by trade. The Pennridge School District is about 90 square miles. That would be roughly a 6 by 15 mile triangle, or a rectangle, sorry. When you add the 10 miles that we must bus private school students beyond that boundary, it becomes about an 800 square mile area. It doesn't seem like it's a difficult problem, but it is a difficult problem. And the speakers noted that the students from St. Jude's were sort of centrally located. That isn't necessarily the case with our private schools. So it is a difficult proposition, and I think, I do believe the Transportation Department does try to solve as many of those problems as they can, but we still have students riding buses for a relatively long time. The other thing that we're embarking upon is a demographic study. That's been something that been in the wind and we authorized back in the summer and is now fully underway. That's of interest for a number of reasons. Obviously, it's good to know how many students we're going to have in the school district. The state as a whole has been losing students from school districts. You need to look no further than Central Bucks to see that they've lost about 3,000 students in the last few years. That's a lot of students. It's a big district, but it is still a lot of students. We are not at that point. We are pretty much stable in terms of our enrollment each year, but the initial look sounded like we might have a significant reduction in students at the elementary level. So we've commissioned not just a demographic study to tell us how many students are coming in the next 1, 3, 5 years, obviously an estimate, but seemingly this organization and others can relatively accurately predict that unless something really untoward happens. But also what that means in terms of the facilities and the facilities usage. I don't know how many people here remember, but I certainly remember when we had art on a cart and music in classrooms that weren't really classrooms and other things that were difficult. And when we authorized the renovation and rebuilding of the high school it started in 1998, but when it was completed, the assumption was that it would hold 2,400 students. We've been most fortunate, and I think also well planned, that the students at the high school have ranged from about 2,300 to 2,450. So we've been able to accommodate those students for a decade or more at the level that was projected. So hopefully that will continue, but you never know. So that's one of the things that's ongoing and we'll hear about later this year. And of course, we're about to start the budget process yet again. The other thing that I do want to comment tonight, I want to thank the board members. I appreciate the fact that you always work with me, that civility is still in fashion up here. I don't think it is everywhere, but I believe that we have been not fortunate. I think people have worked hard. That doesn't mean we agree with each other. We don't always. And sometimes we disagree almost diametrically opposite. So it takes some work, and I do think our board members are very conscientious about putting time and effort into trying to make the team work and make the team work with the administration as well. So I want to say thank you again tonight, and I certainly appreciate the confidence. At this point, I'll turn it over to Dr. Radigan for her superintendent's report.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Yarnell. We have several thank yous tonight. The Sellersville Elementary for the district office meeting room display. We received a donation of $500 from the Keller Charitable Trust to the Life Skills Program at Penn Central Middle School. a donation of 520 copies of Outside My School Bus Window from Maria Howe to the elementary schools in the Pennridge School District, a donation of $5,000 to the track team for the purchase of the track timing system, that was an anonymous donation, and a donation of books relating to best practices in teaching, assessment, administration, etc., to the Pennridge School District from Mr. Van Joren. So thank you to all of those individuals who helped make us do our job more effectively. Our Takes Pride theme for the month of December is empathy. Students were reminded that empathy means identifying with and understanding another's situations or feelings. People who are empathetic show compassion for others. They are able to share as examples the sadness or happiness of others. And since our next board meeting is not until the end of January, unless we have a special one, the Takes Pride theme for the month of January will be service. Students will be reminded that service is an act of helpful activity. People who give service take action to help someone or to do them a favor. Next I have the Points of Pride. 3 of our students were honored at the Pennsylvania State Thespian Conference in York last week. Jeremy Knoll received a performance award for his senior audition. This is the first time a Pennridge student has received any scholarship funds from the State Thespian Board. Julia Corrado and Natalie Sutton received Hall of Fame awards for performance and tech, respectively. At Penn North, 8th grader Madeline Hoffman has taken the challenge of inspiring her classmates to help others by showing them how to make buddy bags. During club time, the bags are then donated to residents of a personal care facility to attach to their walker, so they can have necessary supplies with them. Others are donated to a hospital children's unit to attach to a bed rail in which to place activities. On Friday, I had the honor of being part of a check presentation from our girls' soccer team to Grandview Health. The team raised $2,325 at its pink night for women's cancer services at the hospital. So well done, soccer team. Not only did we beat Quakertown on the football field Thanksgiving Day, we also beat them in the canned food drive. But the real winners were the needy families who live in our community. Our students and staff donated more than 5,000 pounds of food to Pennridge Fish, while Quakertown donated another 1,000 plus pounds. The haul was so big that the folks who came from Fish to pick up the food had to call for more trucks to handle all the donations. Good problem to have. These are just 3 more examples of our students demonstrating our Takes Pride themes in action. The following students from our fall high school sports teams have been recognized for their academic accomplishments. Caitlin Harris, tennis, you'll hear more about her in a moment. Piper Zimmerman, soccer. Claire Benno, water polo. Kendall O'Shea, field hockey. Madison Polson, cross country. Nathan Enger, golf. Hayden Sant, water polo. Jarrett Klebel, cross country. Alex Schmidt, football. Kenneth Estep, soccer, and Celine Cullen, volleyball. Some names were familiar there. Anyway, 2 Pennridge High School seniors have been named Students of the Month by the Percy Rotary Club. Dennis Breslin was named Student of the Month for September. He has participated in a variety of activities, including several school choirs, the drama club, and each annual school musical. He is president of the Pennridge High School Student Council and has been recognized with a Rising Leader Award, and volunteers with the Southampton Music Company to teach children about the theater. He plans to attend college to study business administration and musical theater and hopes to open and run his own trial theater. Caitlin Harris, I mentioned earlier, was named Student of the Month for October. Caitlin has excelled in academics, taking 6 AP classes and 14 honors classes. In addition to her study, she has lettered each year in varsity tennis and won the 2016 Tennis Service Award. She participates in activities including Key Club, Future Business Leaders of America, and the Pennridge Drama Club. She is vice president of both the Key Club and Future Business Leaders of America. She plans to attend college to study biology and attend medical school to become a doctor. Finally, on a sad note, we mourn the passing of Mr. Greg Benson, a music teacher in the district since 2000. He had a profound impact on hundreds of students with his love of music and his passion for teaching. Mr. Benson directed the Pennridge High School and South Middle School jazz bands for many years. He was the band director of Pennridge High School Rams Marching Band from 2012 to 2015. He was named Jazz Director of the Year by the Cavalcade of Bands. There will be a memorial service for Mr. Benson here in our high school auditorium at 6:30 p.m. on Saturday, December 10th. In lieu of flowers, memorial contributions may be made to the Gregory J. Benson Memorial Scholarship Fund, care of Penn Community Bank, P.O. Box 176, Percy, attention Market Street office. So if we could just pause for a moment of silence in memory of Mr. Benson. That concludes my report, Dr. Urnell.
Thank you. At this point, we'll move to the committees, and the first committee is the Activities Committee. Mrs. Yardley.
Okay, the Activities Committee met on November 9th. The high school administration had a presentation on Link Crew, which is a 9th grade year-long orientation program, which will be implemented next year. We had a pool schedule update and a school calendar discussion for the next school year. None of those things require any votes tonight, so that's all I have, and our next meeting is scheduled for January 11th.
Thank you. The next one is Curriculum Committee meeting. I will note that we did meet on November 14th, 2016. The bulk of that discussion had to do with the program improvement plans for the coming year, and in particular those at the high school. And tonight we have a motion with multiple parts, obviously, related to the courses that were presented and discussed that night as recommendations. So I will move to the motions. The first motion is to approve those courses, and they include items A through I, as I say, entirely related to the high school. We have other program improvement plans coming, and that we have previously discussed, but this is the list for the high school. I would like a second for that motion. Thank you, Mrs. Famous Clements. Moved and seconded to approve the courses designed for program improvement. Comments or questions from board members? No? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 9-0. The next motion has to do with the Pennridge Community Education Foundation and the grant recipients that they are kind enough to award to teachers here in the district. There are 4 that are recommended tonight. They include infusing the STEM curriculum into the Common Core, infusing technology with science, Rambling Rams of Pennridge, and computer science and coding. So I move that we accept these 4 grants and the amounts listed. Do I have a second? Thank you, Mrs. Cullen. Moved and seconded to approve the PCF grants. Comments, questions from board members? If not, all those in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Fine. Oh, I didn't know that. All right. I am told that we have the people who put all this effort into obtaining these grants. The teachers are here, and we're going to take another picture. So congratulations to, how many do we have? 4? 4?
So on behalf of PCEF, you see in the program the listing of your award, and you probably are all aware of it as well, but it is our pleasure to give you these grants. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you.
Congratulations and thank you for working on behalf of our students. Beyond that, we have no more motions, and the next curriculum committee meeting is scheduled for next Monday night, December 12th, 2016, in this venue. Facilities, Mrs. Schmidt.
Thank you, Dr. Yarnell. The Facilities Committee met on November 2nd. There are two motions this evening. The first motion is obsolete items as listed in letters A through F.
Do we have a second to that motion? Second. Thank you, Mr. Casper. We'll move that. Any comments or questions for board members on the motion? No? If not, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 9-0. Mrs. Schmidt.
The second motion is to approve change orders. The first one, letter A, is change order number 1, Stone Ridge Aquatic Construction High School Pool HVAC Upgrades, Project 23095, a deduct of $4,700 for unused materials.
Do we have a second to that motion?
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve this change order number 1. Comments or questions from board members? No? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 9-0. Mrs. Schmidt.
And the second one is change order number 1, Coastal Communications Incorporated, Sellersville Elementary School Clock and Speaker Replacement Project. Deduct is $3,910, again, credit for unused materials.
Thank you. Do we have a second to that motion?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Gullo. Moved and seconded to approve a change order for Coastal Communications. Comments or questions from board members? No? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 9-0. Mrs. Schmidt?
The next Facilities Committee meeting is scheduled for December 14th.
Thank you. Next is Finance, and this time I do remember your name, Mr. Casper, so you're on.
Thank you. The Finance Committee met on November 2nd. Tonight there are 4 motions. The first motion deals with contracts we discussed. So that's motion 1, A through J.
Do we have a second to the motion for approval of contracts? Thank you, Mr. Krause. Moved and seconded to approve these contracts. Comments or questions for board members?
I have a comment about the Township East Rock Hill agreement. Once we got that rolling, it happened pretty quickly, so thank you to Sean and our solicitor and the police and the township. So glad to see that that made it on here so quickly. So appreciate it. That's my comment.
Any other comments before we vote on the motion? If not, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 9-0. Mr. Casper.
Thank you. The second motion is to approve the settlement agreement identified as 2017-9.
Thank you. Do we have a second to that motion? Thank you. Mr. Smith moved and seconded to approve the settlement agreement. Comments or questions from board members? If not, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 9-0. Mr. Casper.
Thank you. The third motion is to approve student activity account as requested below in 3A.
Do we have a second to approve the high school jazz account? Thank you. No, Mrs. Schmidt. Moved and seconded to approve this account request. Comments or questions from board members? No? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 9-0. Mr. Casper?
Thank you. The fourth motion is a motion to accept the resolution establishing tax collector compensation procedures and rules effective January 1st, 2018.
Thank you.
Which was finally reviewed and approved by the solicitor.
Okay. So this is a solicitor reviewed and approved. Do we have a second to the motion?
Second.
Mrs. Schmidt. Thank you. Moved and seconded to approve this compensation resolution. Comments or questions from board members? None. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 9-0. Mr. Casper?
Thank you. The next Finance Committee meeting is scheduled for December 14th, where I believe we're going to roll out some of the audit information and Sean's plan for setting us up for the next budget run. So thank you.
Thank you. We'll move to the intermediate unit. Mrs. Miller.
Thank you, Dr. Yarnell. The intermediate unit met on 11/15 at the Samuel Everett School in Langhorne, our yearly trek to this school. If you recall, the IU opened this school last fall to address the needs of students with autism, emotional behaviors, and those with traumatic brain injuries. The goal was to return them to their home school as appropriate. Principal Shannon Fine presented on her team's efforts in developing a culture to help these students identify with their new school, from holding elections for student council, choosing school colors, a mascot, etc. Ms. Fine also rolled out a school-wide positive behavior program, which is a proactive approach to establishing the supports and culture for all students to achieve social, emotional, and academic learning in their new school. The Art Education Trust Board directs the Art on the Move program. As a refresher, the Art on the Move program worked with the elementary, middle, and high school faculties to choose pieces from the IU's artwork collection and delivers them to schools for a period of 6 to 8 weeks. The IU installs, deinstalls the art pieces and develops a curriculum that crosses into all programs of study. This fall, the program reached over 1,000 students. Of those students, 16% were in special education and 27% were economically disadvantaged students. So this program reaches out to all students. So it's a wonderful program. Dr. Holler of Programs and Services provided an overview of the Interlibrary Delivery Services, which provides libraries throughout the Commonwealth and 11 out-of-state libraries with a cost-effective delivery service to support interlibrary loan. So for example, if a student in a PA high school needs research materials for a specific topic, a book can be requested from a university or public library. The IDS facilitates the shipment of that book to the student's school building with the next day delivery, then transports it back to the library when finished. The IU functions as an independent contract for the IDS program to provide management services and administrative support. After reviewing over 30 designs, the IU settled on a new logo to visually communicate the focus, services, and personnel of the IU. The crowded circle with burgundy letters no longer exists. It's gone and replaced with a cleaner, more colorful representation supporting those who are served by the BCIU. I have a sample if anyone is interested. The IU again will be participating in the STEM Design Challenge. The Bucks County competition will be held at the IU on March 22nd for grades 4 and 5 and March 23rd for grades 6 through 8. The challenge for 2017 is for each team to create a new amusement park with a green priority in order to make the world healthier, cleaner, and safer. Each team may use up to 1,400 Connect pieces, and each project must use at least one motor. Sounds exciting. The middle school challenge adds another component to the task by requiring the teams to inventory each Connect piece used, list a list price for each piece, and present an inventory and overall cost of their project. Lastly, a volunteer group for teens aged 13 through 18 with type 1 diabetes is forming with a main focus on helping and mentoring young T1s or teens who are newly diagnosed. The goal is to provide to peer fund and support through monthly teen activities and help increase community awareness and education. The organization is titled TOPP, and I gave Ms. Burkholder a card with the information. If anyone else is interested. The next meeting is scheduled for January 17th at the location in Doylestown.
Thank you, Mrs. Miller. Next is personnel. We'll move to Mr. Rugola.
Thank you. The Personnel Committee met on November 9, 2016. There's one motion, and it's to approve the contract with Wellness, Nutrition, and Education to provide wellness and health coaching services.
Do we have a second for that motion? Thank you, Mrs. Schmidt. Moved and seconded to approve the contract with Wellness, Nutrition, and Education, LLC. Comments or questions from board members? Yes, Mrs. Bates, comments first.
Oh, go ahead. I just have two concerns. One, I wanted to make sure that this is not something we're going to be pushing on our teachers, that this is going to remain, this will appeal to some people, but it's not going to appeal to everyone. And it's in an effort to lower stress. I don't want us to increase stress by forcing them to participate in something that is taking up time where I'm one of those people, I don't work out because I think about all the things I could be doing while I was working out, and there's a lot of people with that mindset, especially in the teaching field, and I just don't want them to be sitting there thinking, oh, there's so many other things I could be getting done instead of this. So I just want to make sure that that's not something we're going to be pushing on them. And then also, But I do think we do need to make an effort to let them know that this is available, because most of them probably don't even know, and there are some people who will be interested. And then my other point is, since it's covered by the insurance, there's other providers out there that they can choose. Is this going to require them to use this specific provider as opposed to anyone else?
The program is completely voluntary, whether it be attending one of the hot topic sessions that they'll be offering, or simply watching one of the webinars on, say, a smoking cessation, or asking for more information. And we are not tied to those nutritional coaches. They can go to their own nutritional coach if they want. We're just making the service available to them and making it a little easier for someone to reach out to someone rather than having to look around for someone themselves, should they be interested.
Thank you.
Mr. Casper?
Thank you. I have just a second or two. I just wanted to thank Dr. Radigan and Jackie. I think this is going to be a good thing. I hope it gets spread, the news is spread. It comes at the resolution time of the year. People may want to venture out. And I think it's going to be good I think it's something that's been missing around here in some ways. And I am also interested to see how, after it's in place for a while, if we start seeing some results in our benefit plan. Some things that, we may save someone from a heart attack. We may save someone from wearing their knees out. Not we, but they'll save themselves, help themselves. So thanks for getting this together. I think it's been a long time coming, and I'm glad to see it's finally on our agenda and getting a vote. So thank you.
And pardon me, Dr. Yarnell, I would just like to reiterate that. Thank you, Mrs. McHale, for getting this started within the district. I think it's been a long time coming. I know, at least since I joined the board, it's been discussed. So thank you for that. The presentation was very good the other night that the gentleman came and provided us with. And I also want to emphasize that this is at no cost to the district. It is only a benefit to our employees. So it's a positive thing.
Any other comments on the motion that's on the floor? No? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 9-0. Mr. Regomo?
Thank you. The next Personnel Committee is scheduled to meet January 11, 2017.
Thank you. And the Policy Review Committee, Mrs. Miller?
Thank you. The Policy Review Committee met on November 9th, and I have just one motion to approve the second reading and final revision of the following policy, number 202, eligibility of non-resident students.
Do we have a second to that motion?
Second.
Mr. Casper, I'll take Mr. Casper as the second. Comments or questions from board members on this motion? Not? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries 8-1. Mrs. Miller?
The next Policy Review Committee meeting is scheduled for January 11th at this location.
Thank you. And would you continue with the Upper Bucks County Technical School Committee?
I will, thank you. The Upper Bucks County Technical School met on November 17th. As reported last month, the tech school is planning to roll out level 1 of a new mechatronics program in September 2017. A brochure has been created with details, if anyone is interested, I have it with me, of the program. As an update, Bern Wagenseller, Executive Director, is meeting with the 13 Bucks County superintendents and 2 other technical schools to work out an agreement and further development of the entrepreneurship degree program. Dr. Bullock is the new volunteer dentist operating the technical school's dental clinic. The clinic is designed to allow our students to function as dental assistants by providing actual experience through chairside dental assisting and record-keeping skills. The program also addresses the needs for public dental health clinic services and education. A list of clinical charges is available if anyone is interested. December 3rd marks the return of Breakfast with Santa. A rough estimate suggests there were approximately 150 participants. Our next meeting is scheduled for December 15th, beginning at 7:30, located in the JRC boardroom of the Upper Bucks County Technical School.
Thank you, Mrs. Miller. And that meeting, like this one or like the preceding one, will be the annual reorganization meeting for the Upper Bucks County Technical School Committee, the so-called JOC. Technology is next, Mr. Krause.
Thank you, Dr. Yarnell. The Technology Committee met on November 14th, where Dr. Scheid and Mrs. Gurish provided us an update on our implementation of the Unified Learning Management System, Canvas, and our dedicated cyber programs. Mrs. Gurish reviewed the Canvas one-year goals, the supports that are in place for teachers, students, parents, and anecdotal feedback from students, parents, and teachers, empirical results, and provided us with a pathway moving forward on where we want to go. So I thank them for that. We also reviewed our cyber course development and feedback from our PE course, as well as our SAT prep course for students. In addition, we had a short update on Naviance. We had a little blip with Naviance where it crashed one day, so we know what caused that. It was not anything the district did or any of our systems. The crash was Naviance themselves. So that's a good thing. Moving forward, everything should be rock solid. So our next Technology Committee meeting is scheduled for December 12th. Thank you.
Thank you. Act 48 Committee, Mrs. Banis-Clemens.
The Act 48 Committee has not met since our last meeting, and the next meeting is scheduled for January 12th.
Thank you. Ad hoc fundraising, Mrs. Yardley, Mrs. Schmidt.
The next meeting, we haven't met since the last board meeting, and the next meeting is scheduled for December 19th, 2 weeks from tonight here. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, one thing I noticed is we do not have the Pennridge Area Coordinating Committee on here tonight. Do Mrs. Cullen, Mrs. Banis-Clemens, do we have anything to report from that meeting? And I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I apologize since it wasn't on the agenda.
We haven't had a meeting since the last board meeting, but the next meeting is January 26th.
Okay. All right. Very good. So we'll move to old business. Board members, anything on the old business? If not, I will move to announcements. Announcements. There will be a special board, or there has been a special board meeting scheduled for December 14th, 2016, if needed, meaning it's not automatically going to occur. At 6:30 p.m. for the purpose of personnel matters and any other general business that needs to be taken care of at that time. As you probably know, the reorganization meeting is early in December because of the state school code, and our general meetings being the last Monday or the fourth Monday of the month means that the January meeting, as you'll see below, is not scheduled until January 23rd. That's a fairly long stretch. The next board meeting, as I said, is the 23rd of January. It will be at 7 p.m. and it will be here in this room in the high school. There will be an executive session tonight that will follow the meeting for the discussion of the terms and conditions of terms and conditions of employment of a number of district employees, as well as labor and arbitration matters. Public comment. Same rules as before. Anyone wish to make a comment? If not, press. Do we have anyone from the press that would like to comment or question, I guess? No? If not, this meeting's adjourned. Thank you for coming. Have a good holiday season, and hopefully we'll see you back in the new year.